Hello and welcome to Home Media Minefield presents Let's See What's Out There Live, a weekly live stream and podcast currently focused on Marvel's WandaVision series, which is available to stream globally on Disney+. In today's episode, we are going to have a spoiler-filled conversation around episode 3, now in color, and episode 4, we interrupt this program, as well as elements of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm Keith Isles, a filmmaker, actor, and YouTuber, and I'm joined by a panel of superheroes from both sides of the Atlantic. First up, we have our Marvel Comics specialist, Barbara Mealy. Welcome, Barbara.
Hey, everybody.
How are you today? You well?
Good. Very happy to be here and excited to parse out these episodes.
Absolutely. We got loads to talk about this week, as I'm sure we always will. But also joining us on this panel, I have artist and film enthusiast Ryan Holloway. Hey, Ryan.
There. Hello. How are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you today?
I'm very good. I'm very excited.
This evening?
Yeah, I'm very excited and I'm raring to go.
Fair enough. Well, we need to even out our team of superheroes, as it were. So last and by no means least, we have producer and podcaster Pete Mealy. Welcome, Pete.
To infinity and beyond. Is that this? Is this? Oh no, different.
wrong podcast.
Yeah, sorry, guys. Hi.
Infinity Stones and beyond, maybe.
Oh, very good.
But there you go. So this week, again, like last week, we're doing 2 episodes. Basically, we will be caught up now as of this week. So the following 5 weeks, the next 5 weeks, we will be dealing with the episode that airs that week. So we're all caught up now. If you are watching this, please do like, subscribe, comment, and join in the chat if you're watching us live. I know Derek McManus has already written in to say, greetings all, I hope everybody is well tonight. Well, yes, I'm good, and it seems like the team is good.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for the note.
Absolutely, we really appreciate that. So yeah, spread the word. If you've got any questions or comments during this, please put it in. Paul Dulake has also put a couple of thumbs up for us, so thank you, Paul. But for now, we're going to go into our normal format for this. So we're going to start with There Was an Idea. Over to you, Ryan.
Over to me. So a synopsis of episodes 3 and 4. Episode 3, now in color. So with episode 3, Wanda's surprise pregnancy that we found out in the previous episode gets even more surprising when a doctor tells our heroes that she is already 4 months along, which scare the hell out of anyone, I think. As the couple start to prepare for their child's arrival, the pregnancy elevates to 6 months, and then very quickly she goes into labor. And when the contractions begin, Wanda's abilities start to make things move around the house and eventually shut down the town's power. With Vision on his way to collect their doctor, new neighbor Geraldine arrives to help deliver what turns out to be twins, and reveals that she knows Ultron killed Wanda's twin brother Pietro. Vision returns home and finds Wanda alone, and as the couple settle down with their newborns, we see Geraldine ejected from an invisible force and then surrounded by mysterious agents. So that was episode 3, now in color. And then episode 4, we interrupt this program. So we rewind to events prior to the last episode, where we see Geraldine re-emerge in a hospital after the blip, where she had been waiting for her mother to have an operation in a hospital. It's revealed that her mother was Maria Rambeau, and Geraldine is Monica, an agent of S.W.O.R.D. Weeks later, Monica returns to work and is sent to meet FBI agent Jimmy Woo and investigate a missing persons case in Westview, New Jersey. They discover a static field, and Monica is pulled in. S.W.O.R.D. quickly establish a base around the town and investigates the strange phenomena. With help from Dr. Darcy Lewis, they discover a broadcast from inside the sitcom WandaVision. Monica, who's been disguised as Geraldine, mentions Ultron to Wanda, who then reveals her power. And that's
very nice indeed, Ryan. Yes, It was an exciting episode for sure, wasn't it?
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah. Episode
Absolutely.
4 in particular.
Yeah. And we will get into this later. But first, it's who did this to you, Wanda? And this is where we look at the production credits for this week. Obviously, last week we covered series director Matt Shackman and series showrunner Jack Schaefer. But this week, episode 3 was written by Megan McDonnell. Megan's previous credits include some short films, The Perceivers and Meet Cute, before landing this gig as a writer on this show. So that's good to see somebody early in their career getting an opportunity like this. The second episode was written not just by Megan, but also by Bobak Esfajani. And Bobak's previous credits include the TV series Helix or Helix, depending on where you're from. I don't know whether any of you saw that. It was from 2015 and starred Billy Campbell, quite a decent series. And also the television series Manifest, which they served as writer and co-producer on that. So that's our writers for this episode. What we want to do in this section is talk about people from behind the scenes involved in the creative process. So not necessarily our cast, but some of the crew. And actually in the sort of meta aspect of episode 4, they talked about production design. And our production designer for this series is Mark Worthington. Now, Mark Worthington's credits go back with art department credits back as far as Tombstone in 1993, US Marshals and Legally Blonde 2 as an art director, and then moving up to production designer on Ugly Betty, the TV series, Love Bites, American Horror Story, 50 episodes of that, Why Women Kill, the TV series, and also the mini series Watchmen before getting involved here on WandaVision. So some really good credits to his name there, and a good job so far on the episodes, I feel.
Absolutely.
So now you need to keep both eyes open. Over to you, Barbara.
All right. So it was kind of difficult to decide like which parts of the comic history to pull in here, because I have to say that both of these episodes 3 and 4 are where, especially 4, where WandaVision is really diverging from the comic book history. Yes, in the comics, Wanda and Vision do have twins. They are boys named Billy and Tommy, so that's like right out of comic book lore. But obviously, you know, Shield and Sword were represented differently in the comics. They weren't as tech savvy or in depth in the comics because, right, the comics are written when that kind of stuff really wasn't in existence in the real world. So where we might be tying back to the comics in the future episodes are the actual true origins of the children of the twins. So it's a little bit far-fetched, but Wanda had a mentor in the comics who was a witch named Agatha Harkness. And the buzz on the internet is that our nosy neighbor Agnes is actually Agatha. And if there's some kind of bigger picture storyline that Marvel is going to go with here, you know, like what's going on with Wanda post blip, post Vision being dead, it could be that she falls into you know, she like has to explore her powers and figure out what exactly she can do. And so she, you know, is taken on by this witch who actually in the comics has been around since the Salem witch trials. So she's a few centuries old. And if that is indeed where Marvel goes with the story, it could get a little bit more complicated and I think probably less palatable for mainstream entertainment. In the comics, the devil, Mephistopheles, gets involved with Wanda's powers and, trying to manipulate her for evil, even to the point where the children are not actually Wanda and Visions, they're Wanda's and the devil's. But I feel like that's a little bit too far left field for, like that wouldn't really play well in Hollywood. So I think it's probably going to be more of a manipulation of Wanda's powers and like testing and her having to decide, good or evil. And is she going to let all the traumas that she's been through make her vengeful, or is she going to, believe in like love and protecting humanity, even though it's like really caused a lot of personal trauma in her life.
Oh wow!
So
Amazing.
I think in episode 4, it's still too early to call that, but I also I'm really interested to talk with you guys what you think about, last cast we talked about the possible causes of Westview being in existence. Like, was it S.H.I.E.L.D. trying to get something out of her, or is it Wanda's own creation so that she and Vision can be together? So I'm really interested to see where they go with that in the show.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah. Certainly something with Agnes, wonderfully played by Catherine Hahn, has always seemed a bit off in these episodes. So that's quite interesting that that she could indeed be Agatha Harkness, potentially, maybe. Yeah. Like it. Okay. Anything else that stood out as a sort of directly referencing the comics? I mean, bearing in mind the whole thing is based on comics, I know, but any other bits that really stood out for you there, Barbara?
No, I think a lot more of the little winks and nods in these 2 episodes are for the MCU universe. So we had in episode 3 another kind of weird commercial was for Hydra Silk, right?
That's right, yeah.
I guess when you need to escape, they said, was like the tagline. In episode 4, I guess because we have the agents of S.W.O.R.D. and S.H.I.E.L.D. and the FBI, everybody's working together, so it's told more from the outside perspective, and there isn't time for a commercial, so we don't have one in episode 4. But I did have fun with other characters being pulled in, like Darcy Lewis, right, is a doctor, the sort of computer whiz from Thor, and Agent Wu was in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yes, indeed.
I also really like the tie-in of Monica Rambeau, Geraldine.
Yeah.
Have you guys picked up how she ties in, what her history in the MCU is?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's actually our next section, which is on your left, which is our connections to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And yes, indeed, we know that Monica Rambeau was the little girl in Captain Marvel. That's right, isn't it? Yeah,
it is.
So,
no way.
Before, you knew that.
Oh, I did not know that.
She's a Captain Marvel's
she even had the same hair, exactly
Maria
the same hair.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I should have picked
Pete,
that
isn't this supposed to be your section?
It's your section, Pete. It's the connections to MCU is you. No, I'm joking. Listen, but before we dig into that, I just want to say a few more hellos because we've got some more people on the live chat. So we've got Eastland Burkholder, Jason Finn and Daniel Leach have all joined the chat and all said hello. So thank you so much, guys, for your support. Thanks for being on. Great to have you guys on there. I hope you're finding this interesting and enjoying it. So we really appreciate you guys joining us today. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
so
hi, guys.
okay, more connections to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Then come on, Pete.
Pete's still picking himself up at the floor after that one.
Yeah. I really should have picked that one up, but man, that's why you said
you were engrossed like we all were.
No, even while we were watching it, Barbara turned to me and was like, "You know who that is, right?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "You know who her mother is, right?" And I was like, "Barbara, you know I haven't read the comics." Ugh. And then she smirked at me, and then that's awesome. Okay, that's awesome. I'm so glad to see that character come back. We've mentioned most of them already, like Pietro the brother. Age of Ultron gets mentioned in episode 3. We talk about Ultron specifically. We start episode 4 with people coming back from the blip, which is a reference from Endgame, I suppose, or to a lesser extent Spider-Man Far From Home. We have Agent Wu, who's the agent from Ant-Man and the Wasp. We have Dr. Lewis, who's in Thor and Thor Dark World. And we get the view of Vision after Wanda has destroyed the Infinity Stone. That happens in Infinity War, Avengers Infinity War. So we see that sort of image creepily. And then just one sort of reference outside of the MCU, but I loved it. At one point in episode 4, we have the dialogue, "Are we recording this?" And somebody else says, "We never stopped." And that is word for word from the Carl Sagan classic Contact.
Right. Yeah.
And so I did a little silent fist pump when that happened.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm so glad because when that line got read out, I did think, what is that? I know what that is.
That is Contact.
Yeah, and I love Contact. Okay.
So do
brilliant.
I. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's so favorites.
Good. Book and movie, equally good there. So yeah, that's those are my connections.
Awesome. Yeah, no, very good. I'm actually glad you mentioned, because of course we went off on a bit of a tangent last week talking about the character of Quicksilver and the fact that there could be, multiverses, and we mentioned, X-Men, and we talked about Evan Peters, who obviously played Peter Maximoff, which was the version of Quicksilver that they imagined for the X-Men franchise. But of course, Pietro Maximoff, which is the original Quicksilver, which did appear in Age of Ultron, was of course played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. So I feel that I forgot to mention that last week, so I'm glad you brought that up. The other thing that sort of jumped out to me in this particular episode was that the drone that they sent through in episode 4 was actually sort of in the Captain Marvel colors. But where we got that production design thing is sort of picking up on what you said last week, Pete, about the retro version of that drone that looked like a toy helicopter being in the sort of Tony Stark colors in Wanda's reality. And I did like the way they kind of explained that by saying I don't know, production design.
That was awesome.
So it was good that sort of came back again as well. And I mean the other things are, I guess, less actual references. Obviously, you mentioned Jimmy Woo and Ant-Man and Darcy Lewis from Thor, etc. Of course, we've got, because there was some question last week as to whether Sword had actually been mentioned before in the MCU. There was that theory that that's where Nick Fury was at the post-credit scene of Spider-Man Far From Home, but we get it confirmed here that in the MCU it stands for Sentient Weapon Observation Response Division, which was set up by Maria Rambeau, who is obviously Monica's mother.
I know this one. Yeah.
So yes.
and we saw her in Captain Marvel.
We did, yes. Yeah, absolutely. So,
Well done, Peter.
I'm so glad Pete's here. Do you know what I mean?
But the other thing, I'm guessing this episode must be set in 2023 because, of course, what we saw in this one, which I thought was incredibly well done, was the aftermath of the blip, which, of course, brought back the disappeared from the end of Infinity War. Well, it brought them back in Endgame, Avengers Endgame, and we obviously saw a more comedic version of that in Spider-Man Far From Home when the sort of majorettes band appear in the middle of the basketball field or the basketball court. Sorry,
I do not remember that film at all. That's
Well,
awful.
Oh, really? That is such a good. I highly recommend watching that one multiple times because it is.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh man, is that good?
I do need to rewatch, so I shall do that for sure.
Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's like it humorously hits that people who blipped and lost 5 years, so they blipped when they were 16 but came back when they were 21, trying to drink, right? Because their ID, they're like, no, look, I'm 21, and then people are like, no, he blipped, he's actually 16. It's great.
There's half the planet 5 years younger than everybody else. It's kind of a bizarre phenomenon, but of course it would be. What I liked was I mean, I guess I'm jumping ahead to my thoughts here, but that's the other connection that they had to the MCU, and I think that's more or less it. I'm sure there's plenty of others, and this is actually one of the things it does make you want to do is watching this is go back and sort of revisit the MCU in many respects, isn't it? Go back and watch those 23 films.
Yeah, I mean, because that whole the drama of once you kind of knew that this was the blip, it was just like, oh, I need to, and it was, it got me really back into that time of watching Infinity War and Endgame, and it was a happy place.
Exactly. So next up is I could do this all day, and this is where we look at our theories, speculation, predictions, whatever regarding the episodes and where we think it might be going. So because obviously a few things have been answered in episode 4, but there's still obviously a hell of a lot of things to unravel. So what are your thoughts, guys?
I don't know, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, I think it's interesting what Barbara's saying about how it has kind of already started to deviate from the comic book, which of course then opens up a whole literal universe of things, and it gets me wondering about characters that they could draw on to help get Wanda out. So I start thinking about,
oh man, but I don't think you want to get Wanda out, right? I'll say this: my prediction is that this is Wanda working through the trauma.
Oh no, totally,
right? Yeah, and
totally. But I'm sort of thinking until they realize that, they might try and get well, I suppose they do realize that by the end of this episode, don't they?
Yeah.
So I wonder if they would send in, but would they send in another character to kind of convince her to stop doing what she's doing and come back to the real world? And are there characters from the cinematic universe that we think could do that?
Oh.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Hawkeye, for example, was very good with her in Ultron. Like, could they bring those characters in to try and convince her to come back? So it gets me thinking about characters that they might introduce. Oh, here we go. I like it. Go on, Barbara.
Yeah. Who do you think they might pull in, Ryan?
Oh, I don't know, because I literally off the top of my head.
Right?
No, off the top of my head, I was just thinking that you've got Hawkeye was very persuasive with her in Age of Ultron when he said, if you walk out that door.
his own sort of issues, right?
Yeah, and if you
And they
walk out that door, you're an Avenger kind of thing. And I think
Yeah.
he could be someone. And also, I don't know what he's up to in the real world at the moment. Maybe he's got
and they
time.
shared that moment, didn't they, at the end of Endgame?
That's right.
Hawkeye and Wanda, when they were talking about, he said about Tony Stark being out there, and she goes, yeah, they both are, which obviously she was referring to Vision. And at the time I was thinking, why hadn't she mentioned Pietro as well? But it seems that this series is kind of dealing with that, which is great. And as Daniel Leach has said, I've put up on the screen there, I think this is supposed to kick off phase 4. Absolutely, yes, we've got a number of films scheduled, some of them obviously pushed back because of what's going on in the world, but so this is almost sort of jumped up in that queue to a certain extent, hasn't it?
I also wonder, actually, definitely.
Sorry,
I'm glad that Daniel said that, because I said I'm glad that Daniel said that, right? Like, this is kicking off phase 4, because my prediction for which other MCU characters they could potentially bring in to help Wanda out of this, I'm gonna say that they're gonna go with a really big gun and bring in Doctor Strange.
Yes.
Oh, that'd be smart. Yeah.
Now,
because
that's amazing,
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I think
Barbara.
the movie is supposed to be the next thing.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And also in there's a specific run of comics that MCU could be pulling from for the events that they're going to explore.
Okay.
And Doctor Strange actually delivers the babies when in that comic series. So it's I understand they had the sort of normie doctor who's part of the town and the sitcom and stuff, but it would be pretty cool if, again, this sort of idea of Wanda having to choose, is she going to be good and protecting, or is she going to be vengeful and evil? And so she's going to need some strong mentors on either side, sort of the angel and devil on her shoulders, right? Trying to get her to go a certain way.
And it does sort of tie in with the Doctor Strange storyline, right? Where, oh man, I've forgotten the character name, but isn't it? It's Chiwetel Ejiofor, right? His character in the Strange movie, who's whiffling between good and evil, right?
That's right. Yes, in the first Doctor Strange. Yeah. I've forgotten the character's name actually as well, but
it's with an M, I think, but I can't remember what it is.
And it could be, a good way to lead into a bigger theme that would keep people interested in phase 4 and beyond, right? Is which of the Infinity Stones is the most powerful? So which the Reality Stone, right, is Doctor Strange's, could go head to head with the Mind Stone, which is what created Vision and gave Wanda her powers. So it's I think that's a really interesting setup.
Cool. Yeah, no, absolutely. In talking of setups, I mean, this one might be a bit of a stretch, but when director Hayward was kind of bringing Monica up to speed as they were walking through the sword facility, and she asked about the space program, the astronaut program, and whatever, and he sort of said, that's kind of been put on hold, and they're researching AI and nanotechnology and all of that sort of stuff. But I wonder whether there might be some sort of, in terms of the space program, some sort of setup for the Fantastic Four, because I know that that's something that Kevin Feige has said that he wants to bring into the MCU now that they have the rights to it. And obviously, during the 5 years that Monica Rambeau was away during the blip, they might have had that, the events creating the Fantastic Four up in space, may have already happened. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's a bit of a stretch?
So I just like the fact that you said stretch when talking about Fantastic Four.
Yeah, well
But
done. Yeah.
I'm going to mute myself again now. Bye.
Totally on
Good
purpose,
job,
obviously.
Ryan.
Yeah. Yeah, so a Reed Richards stretch. So, but what do you think? I don't know. Do you think that's a potential?
I don't really want to rain on your parade, Keith, but timeline-wise, Fantastic Four is a couple of decades before WandaVision.
Right, okay, fair enough. Yeah, but that's in the comics, right? Bearing in mind that the MCU does sort of deviate from the comics, right?
How dare they?
Right. But there are other, like Captain Marvel, I think, right, still really needs to be explored, and she could definitely be out in space working with Sword. And somebody like Monica Rambeau is not going to be a vanilla mortal, I feel like.
Fair enough. Well,
You get what I'm
is
saying?
you'll be able to answer this, I'm sure, Barbara, but is it right that in the comics world, Monica Rambeau does become a superhero, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So there's definitely a potential there then. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there may be potential that we could
Absolutely.
see Captain Marvel at some point.
Yeah. Well, I believe there was planned a Captain Marvel 2. Again,
It's
I think
in the works,
next year or something. So
Yeah,
again, because again, we had a direct reference. In fact, there we go. I missed a reference. So, and I only know this because I put on the subtitles to get it. But when everybody's coming back after the blip at the beginning in the hospital, as Monica Rambeau is basically reforming, so she's going, sort of from the dust and reforming. There's actually some lines from Captain Marvel, and it's the one where Danvers says to her that she's Lieutenant Trouble, which she said to her when she was a little girl. I don't know whether you remember that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's a great possibility there, right?
I'd hope so.
I know it's also in development for a TV series. Marvel have got something called Armor Wars as well. And, when they were talking about nanotech, I mean, that was the last technology that, Tony Stark's armor had, wasn't it? So I wonder whether, that might be setting up something for that as well. I don't know. My speculation's all over the place.
I like it. Keep going.
There's plenty of material. Yeah.
So, hold on. We've got some more comments. Let me just put these up. So, Rebecca Gold says, yes, it's moving away from the source material. Here's hoping it doesn't go fully woke and female agenda driven. What do you think about that, guys? I mean, I don't think it is, to be fair, so far. Do you?
I think if telling a story, from a woman's point of view, gets to be troublesome, that's a different conversation, right? I mean, yeah, I think it's a fine show right now.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, I don't feel at this point that there's any. It certainly doesn't feel like there's any agenda at the moment. But as Rebecca says, she hopes it doesn't go in that kind of direction, and I don't feel like it is at the moment, and I think it seems pretty solid to me from a character perspective.
Sure. Okay. And Daniel's added a comment here as
I
well.
think, like, if this is.
Sorry, Barbara. I didn't mean to talk over you. Carry on.
It's okay. I just, yeah, I think this is more an examination of a particular character who, I mean, she's the Mind Stone. Like, she's probability powers. Like, she could be so powerful, and I think that's really interesting. And I don't actually mind the, like, I feel like these are issues that women have been dealing with for a couple of decades now, of like, how do you quote unquote have it all? Like, be the mom, be, wear like many hats. I mean, she's not going to work at like a day job, but will she have a job, I guess, per se, like protecting Earth? I don't see that as like a female male thing. I think it's like every superpowered character has to figure out the balance between like having a personal life and like what are they going to do in their super powered life.
Yes. No, I think that's a fair comment. I mean, I know a lot of these agendas are sort of present in a lot of entertainment these days, but you know, I must admit I don't really see it here in this particular series. And yeah, I think that's valid. So, okay, Daniel's also put here, something has never sat right with me whenever they've tried to do Fantastic Four. And I agree. Obviously, Fox did those Tim Story films, didn't they, with the Fantastic Four, and they were I found them a bit sort of cheesy and silly. I don't know what you guys thought.
No, I completely agree. I don't know what it is.
I don't think the actor choices, like, and I don't think the actor choices really like fill the roles properly.
You know, I'm going to staunchly defend Chris Evans in the first two.
They're suddenly going to go, why does Johnny Storm look a lot like Captain America?
Yeah, no, it's true, isn't it?
That is not a secret comic connection, so that's just poor choice for casting.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the first one was entertaining to a degree, but then they tried to they brought the Silver Surfer in for the first one. Oh, of course they had the reboot, which is really never talked about now, is it?
It's pretty wretched though. I think it's on Disney Plus.
I think it might be. Yeah, it is horrible.
Yeah,
horrible film. But I mean, it's you know, it had lots of issues, didn't it?
It had lots of production issues. I will sort of defend. I thought it started off quite strong, actually.
Yeah, no, I think so as well.
Film, but it lost its way, and the last act of it was terrible and was, you know, obviously subject to sort of massive reshoots and whatever. But there you go. Oh, I'm off on a tangent again.
That's all right.
So yeah. So any more actual predictions or theories as to where we think this might be going, or who else we might see, etc., or actually what's going on with Wanda? Because there's definitely more to this. Obviously, the last line of episode 4 is you know, Monica Rambeau saying it's Wanda, it's all Wanda. Yeah, but is it?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with Pete on this. I think, and I'm glad Pete brought this up earlier, because watching it, I think it seems at the moment that it is about her dealing with a lot of trauma and a lot of loss, and she's blocking it all out, which is why we saw in that one of the best moments of the episode when we see Vision as he looked after Thanos had ripped the Mind Stone out of his head. That
was so sad and creepy.
But that's hold on. Just to be pedantic, that is how he looked after Wanda destroyed the Mind Stone, not after Thanos ripped it out of his head and then crushed his skull.
Oh, I'd like to see the crushed skull. Is that so bad?
And that was actually a pretty horrific bit, wasn't it? It was
awful. Well, yeah, it was a really you know, it was quite harrowing, actually.
Well, you go from this like sort of 70s, you know, sitcom motif over to something quite like, oh, you know, quite shocking, and obviously, you know, I think there's got to be somebody else or something else, should I say, apart from just Wanda, involved in this, because obviously she has to keep re-editing everything herself, right? So obviously there is some force that she's not able to completely control in order for her to have to rewind and edit and make changes as it goes. And you know, Is she, you know, you bought into, Barbara, you mentioned about the whole sort of witchcraft thing. So obviously in the MCU, we've gone from sort of technology to, you know, genetic mutations to aliens to magic. So we've kind of gone through all the different things. But, you know, is she potentially doing a deal with the devil or whatever to bring Vision back? Because there's been those comments like, you know, the devil's in the details, and Agnes says that's not the only place that the devil is, right, and whatever. So I don't know whether those, obviously everything's very intentional, but what it means, who knows. Also, we've got the person who went missing as well, right? Sorry.
What you mean, Geraldine?
No. Sorry, I was saying that there was also the person that Agent Wu said had gone missing, right? The missing person, and they don't really go into that anymore, do they?
Oh, right.
Yeah, the person who's in witness protection program.
Yeah.
I sort of thought they tried to tie that up in a neat little bow by when they had that montage of identifying all the people who were in Westview, right, as like real people from the outside world. So it's like, oh, he's not missing; he's just been absorbed into Westview.
Yeah. Well, what was interesting with that as well is actually Agnes's picture when they put that up. It didn't have a New Jersey driving license or ID or whatever like the other ones, and also there was no file up at that point for Dottie either, right?
And so, Dottie seemed quite strange in that episode she appeared in.
Well, she was the one who bled red, right, when the glass broke,
which seemed a bit more knowing.
Again, Wanda edited that out, didn't she, in the version that they were watching. So
and also, to Keith, just like going back to what you were saying about is it just Wanda or is there other people involved? I think what's interesting is that if she has created, or if we're presuming that Vision is now dead and Wanda has created all of this herself, there was little moments in episode 4 where Vision would have a look on his face of something's not right here. But if he was completely created by Wanda, surely he wouldn't have those moments.
Yes. Yeah, there's definitely an element that Wanda can't control there somewhere.
I really don't understand just yet what they're doing with Vision, because as you said, Ryan, he does have these moments of where he seems to be like aware that something is not quite right, or you know, but if he is indeed, you know, he like carries the Mind Stone, then why are his powers being subservient to Wanda's? Like, is it because he's just a wishful thinking on her part, like he's actually dead, so for the most part he would behave however she wants him to? I also think it's, you know, they said when they had Darcy Lewis come in and she said it was CMBR, the cosmic, the Big Bang energy that she was picking up, and that they seem to be saying, right, that there was this alternate timeline created, or like, again, here we go with the alternate reality thing, right? Where this is where like Vision lived and he and Wanda get to be together, you know, quote unquote happily ever after. So that's something that I'm looking forward to seeing them figure out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's definitely those weird moments, like in episode 3 when you know, Vision is talking to the neighbors and they say we're all, and Agnes stops him and he's like, you're all what? And we don't find out, you know, what they're going to say there. And you know, and also the doctor that you know is there to look at her pregnancy. He says, what is it when he says, are you going away? And he goes, oh, you know, small towns are hard to escape and all of this sort of thing. It's definitely I
get a real vibe. Like, do you remember I think it was also an episode, but remember the Twilight Zone movie?
Yes.
And the final episode. that final episode was about that kid who had all these powers, and they all had to do what he said, or he'd get angry, and it really puts me in mind of that Twilight Zone episode.
Yes, the one
Like
where the little
they
boy.
kind of do know, but they go along with it.
Yeah, it's the one where the little boy creates the world, and if any of the adults say the wrong thing, he sends them to a cornfield or something. Is that the one?
Yeah, or takes away their mouth, or and it kind of really reminds me. It really reminds me of that. And I started thinking about. You'd have to remind me what his name is. But when the neighbor starts cutting through the wall,
which was super weird,
like cutting through a hedge and then starts cutting through a wall, and it's kind of like, and he's kind of like going, "Yeah, that is a bit weird, isn't it? Oh well," and just sort of trying to carry on, like he knows it's weird, but just like it's all right, just ignore it. It's very, very unusual.
Fair enough. Well, listen, should we move on from theories and move across to Avengers Assemble, where we talk about our thoughts, feelings, nitpicks, etc. on the episodes?
Yeah.
Could I just like throw out one more potentially big
possibility? Oh yes, please do.
Please do.
So we did mention this in the last podcast, like WandaVision being a good potential moment for Disney to bring in XMen. I think we said this, right?
We did. Yeah.
Because in the comic book world, they do exist together. I am so excited at that possibility because I feel like it would be. I love the X-Men. Like I grew up reading those comics as well. And for Disney, which I think has done a phenomenal job with, the Marvel movies to this point, like for them to do X-Men, I think it would just give them decades more material, right? In terms of like movies and stuff to do. I am a little concerned though, because are we going to have Patrick Stewart's Professor X or, what's the other guy's name? His name just went in my head.
James McAvoy.
James McAvoy. Yeah.
There's another Charles? No, surely not. But this is Charles Xavier territory.
Yeah.
Well,
now I'm very excited about that prospect.
Put it this way, they can now.
Last time.
Yeah. No, I mean, they can now do, this is the thing. Disney can now do whatever they want because they now have, completely the rights to all of the Fox properties, which was essentially X-Men and Fantastic Four. So, they could indeed bring it in now if they wanted to.
Also, just to say, nothing against James McAvoy, but he's not Patrick Stewart, is he?
No. What is it supposed to be? Tom Hardy? Oh dear, we're crossing streams.
Oh no, not yet. Tom, yeah. I do not talk of that film. That's a time for.
That's a whole nother podcast, right, Pete?
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about that on one of our episodes.
We probably have.
I'll delete that one.
So then, episodes 3 and 4. What are your, how thoughts, nitpicks, successes, problems? How you feeling, guys? Are you? Put it this way, I'll start by just quoting a friend of mine. I've got a friend out there who, the way he and his wife gauge series, because let's be honest, we live in a really great time where there's not a shortage of stuff to watch out there, is there? But the way they do it, because obviously it's any series that you watch, it's a time commitment, right? So the way they do it is they watch 4 episodes, and if after 4 episodes they're not captured, then they bin it and try something else. And I got a text from him saying, yeah, well, we're 4 episodes in, and episode 4 has completely committed us to the rest of the series now. So do you guys feel the same?
Well, yeah, I'll say that he got lucky with that 4-episode number.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, yeah, Barbara and I, we tried to watch Raised by Wolves this week because I think we talked
Oh
about
no,
that.
I haven't started it yet. Oh no,
Okay.
oh no.
Look, I know some people really like it. All I'm going to say
Ryan,
is,
just save yourself.
after
Oh,
one
no.
episode, we were like, no.
Okay, wait. I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Pete.
Yeah.
What if I said to you though, I liked Prometheus?
I never watched Prometheus, so I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Right, let's not go on that tangent.
Let's not go on that tangent, right?
Fine. I'm just going to get onto the private chat. Everyone just talk.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up.
Sorry, Pete. I took away your thread there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, as it like, and 4 episodes is what it would take, I think, anyone to buy into WandaVision.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have bought in.
I do
after
think
one
that
episode. I was ready to give up after the first episode. And the only reason I stuck with it is because of other people's intervention. So thank you, Barbara, everyone here, because the only reason I'm watching this is because of the people on this channel, on this stream, and thank you, because episode 4 was a wild ride, and so I cannot wait to see what else happens. But if this was like my normal viewing, I never would have gotten through it,
Yeah.
But there's shows that take a full season to get good.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, that is very true. Yeah. I mean, before we dig into sort of episode 4, which is obviously the going to be the main bit of the conversation, I'm sure. But let's just touch on episode 3, because here in the UK, I mean, I wasn't really familiar with the 70s Brady Bunch series. I only know it from the sort of 90s parody movies that they did. but I'm guessing that's what they were
parodies, but yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, but that's what they were kind of trying to do, right?
They were going for that style. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, that 70s show, stuff like that.
Okay.
That 70s show was the parody, but yeah.
I see. Okay.
They were going for Brady Bunch, sort of like certain Mary Tyler Moore episodes. What else were the big sitcoms then that had that same style? There was a bunch of them that were like sort of family in a room, that sort of thing.
I have to say there was one bit of comedy in it that really did make me laugh, and that was from Phil, one of the neighbors in it, when the electricity goes out and his wife comes in and says, "Do these earrings make me look fat?" And the electricity goes out and he goes, "Thank God."
Yeah, that was such a
I think that was a brilliant moment.
It was such a tiny moment. And also just so indicative of the era that the show was based in as well. It just worked so beautifully well. For some reason, talking about 70s comedies, I started to think about Three's Company. Does that count?
I think that was 80s, wasn't it?
80s. Sorry, Keith.
Three's Company was the 80s.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're going to go there, right, in future episodes.
It's got to be what's next.
Yeah.
Three's Company, 77 to 84. Okay, sure.
I just got in there.
Just got in there.
It's the little wins. Going to mute myself again now. Talking on yourself.
I've just put up another on screen there that Daniel has come back saying that would make sense, Barbara. I'd love to see the XMen enter the MCU. It would spice things up quite nicely too. So good comment there. Nice one.
You like Daniel? You can stay.
He can stay, absolutely. Well done, Daniel.
Keep him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything in. I know everybody's itching to talk about episode 4, and of course 3 dovetails perfectly into 4. But was there anything else in 3 that anybody's has strong feelings about?
Well, what I did love about it, especially as with no idea what was about to happen in the next episode. What I did really love in the third one is that moment where Geraldine just breaks character. And we don't know what character she's breaking at this point, but when she suddenly starts, because when she starts talking about Ultron, suddenly you're just like, whoa, what? What's that? What's happening? That's amazing. And then you saw that shift in Wanda's face. And that for me was a really wonderful moment.
Yes, which obviously gets revisited in 4 as well.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
And what a moment that was. But in episode 3, that little moment was just something that really kind of just really grabbed me to see that, and also performance-wise, from Olsen was amazing. Just that lovely shift in her sort of demeanor, I thought was really wonderful. And it really sort of got me like really excited to see where that was going to go, and especially when it was kind of like, where's Geraldine? Oh, she's gone. You're just like, where's Geraldine? And then when you see what happens, it's like, this is insanely good.
Yeah,
and that was before episode 4, so I was, that was an exciting moment for me.
Yeah. Well, actually, both of them. I mean, Elizabeth Olsen and Tana Paris, who plays Monica Rambeau. They were both excellent, I think.
Yeah.
One thing that struck me, it's interesting that if you go into the world, your clothes change to the appropriate era, but if you're kicked out of the world, you come out with those clothes that you had inside the world, which I thought was kind of interesting. Did you know what I mean?
Yeah, when Geraldine was in that, or sorry, not Geraldine, but she was in all her 70s makeup. I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense, right? Because the Scarlet Witch, it's not that she's controlling your mind to think that's what it looks like. She's actually changed your clothes, and then she kicks you out. She doesn't care what you were wearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Changed.
Just chipping in, sorry, with a viewer comment here. So Paul G. Lake has put here, yes, I felt the mechanism of using US sitcom was 1 episode too far. If the 4th episode was like the first 3, I would have quit. They could have given up more during episode 3. So fair enough. Yeah. Fair comment. I think bearing in mind we got 9 episodes in this series, so that's probably a good point, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that episode 3 had it was like the first 2 with the sitcom format, but different and like starting to come to more modern times because it was in color. And then as Ryan and Keith like talked about, with Geraldine, like obviously sort of quote unquote breaking character, I think it was a good bridge episode, right? So that
I totally agree.
Episode 4, they could jump into what was going on outside of Westview.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Well, here's a question actually for you guys based on that is, do you think, obviously what we've been having in this is we've been having these shifting aspect ratios. So we've been going from the sort of 4:3 aspect ratio for the TV as it was at the time, the 70s, the 50s through 90s or whatever. And then, we've even been having a 2:35 aspect ratio for this last episode to sort of match most of the films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Do you think moving forward in the episodes that it might, shift, and we have some of the episode in the sitcom from whatever era, the 80s or wherever, and then half of the episode in inverted commas, the real world in 2023 MCU world? And do you think that might be the mechanism for shifting between the two? What do you think? Not much, clearly.
Sorry. It took me a while. It took me a little while to compute what you were saying, but I think I get it now. So basically what they'll start to do is that it will be an indicator to us as the viewer that we're in one world or the other depending on the ratio.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. No, I think that could be a nice little touch, because I noticed that in episode 4
I didn't know what was going on the first time they did it, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, because episode 4, when we did finally see what felt like a behind-the-scenes WandaVision moment of Wanda and Geraldine's interaction, the ratio really slowly kind of went. It was quite wonderful to watch that. It made it even more dramatic. So yeah, I think Keith could be onto something.
Yeah, and they've been sort of messing with the audio as well, sort of going from a 5.1 to mono and whatever. Daniel's put another point in the chat that he says the laughter track is slightly jarring for a show like this, in his opinion. I mean, I can see what they're trying to do with that. It makes sense to sort of, because they are literally aping the sitcom, but. You know, also with the length of the episodes as well, being around the sort of 30-minute mark, and that was one of the things I felt with episode 4, is I almost wanted it to be longer. Did you guys feel that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Sorry, Pete, go on.
No, I was just gonna say I want so much more.
Yeah,
can't wait.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to say. Yeah, just make it longer.
I thought
definitely...
4 was a good amount. I kept getting worried that they, like, I think 2/3 of the way, that it was going to be the end of the episode, and then it would be so abrupt. But I thought they did a decent amount. I did also want to say that for episode 3, I felt like it was almost too fast somehow. But I think that's part of the sitcom mechanism, right? Like, pregnancy is this long thing, you know, it takes almost a full year, and then labor is never that clean, quick, you know. So that was like a little, I don't know, I didn't enjoy episode 3 the first time I watched it as much as I had enjoyed the other 2, I think, because of the pacing. But if this is Wanda's like made up world, it makes sense, right? Because like on sitcom TV, it's really rare that like major issues or really difficult traumatic life experiences are ever part of the plot. And then when they are, it's like, okay, but you know, I'm going to use a line from another show, ticky tacky, like it's all resolved under half an hour. So it kind of, you know, like that sort of felt. That was my feeling about episode 3.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Do we want to move?
You guys are probably all relieved.
Yeah, well, you know, it's. I mean, do we want to move into episode 4, or what do you think?
Yeah, we're done with 3, right?
We don't want to talk about all that birth stuff.
Yeah, icky stuff. No.
Yeah,
but to be honest, episode 3, I loved episode 3. I really did. I mean, episode 4 was obviously felt grander in terms of the cinematic universe that we've been been given over the last few years. But episode 3, I felt I definitely get the pacing thing that Barbara's talking about, but there was just those little flashes that I've already mentioned that just made me really love episode 3. So I certainly wouldn't dismiss that as sort of like not being nearly as good as 4, which obviously was amazing.
Yeah. No, I mean, 3 led beautifully into 4, and let's be honest, 4 would have made even less sense if we hadn't had 3. So it's like
all over the shop.
I mean, one of the things I really loved was the whole sort of meta aspect of it, because the questions that Jimmy Woo was writing on the whiteboard, right, was essentially the audience questions. Yeah, he had like, why a hexagon, why sitcoms, are they in the same time and space as us, and all of this sort of thing. I mean, it's literally the questions that we have, isn't it? You know, we mentioned the hexagon last week. You know, sitcoms. I mean, I'm assuming the reason it's sitcoms is because Wanda grew up in Sokovia watching reruns of old sitcoms, and it's kind of like a happy place for her or something, I guess. But I mean, I don't know. Do you guys have better theories on that?
No, I think that's sound.
No, I think that makes total sense. Right, like when something's traumatizing, you go back to childhood.
Yeah, I know I do. I've not left it.
Yeah, I've been
Top
watching
left.
a lot of Hammer horror recently. I've been watching a lot of Hammer horror and a lot of Star Trek Next Gen.
There you go.
A window into my Ryan vision.
Yeah, I mean, what do we? Okay, what about the hazmat suit that turns into the B outfit then, and we see a bit more of that, and obviously this field that WandaVision has set up is, you know, goes underground as well, clearly. So, any thoughts on that?
I thought it was smartly done. I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
You know, it was. I thought it was like a way for them to like give us a, once we knew what was going on, when we saw the guy in the hazmat suit go down, it clicked, right? We were all like, oh, this is going to be funny. It's
Yeah.
turn into the beekeeper, and something that felt sort of ominous or really strange in episode whatever the beekeeper was in was fun.
I think it was 2. Can't quite remember. I think it was 2. But yeah, I like that moment where it just clicked. You just thought, oh, okay, see what this is doing. But I mean, I think episode 4 from the very beginning, because it kind of pulled me back, almost like my own blip, back into the MCU. When I felt like I was seeing more from that universe, and it was exciting. And when I heard her name, Rambo, I was just like, oh, this is blowing my mind. And it just, everything just suddenly went to volume 11. And I'm a huge fan of Darcy. It was good to see her back, and suddenly this bigger picture that we were seeing was just like, this is what I want from a Marvel show. And to see it click like that, you know, after everything we've discussed, oh my god, can I watch this after these first two episodes, and what the hell's going on? And for it all to click in that episode was just, you know, some of the best TV I've watched in years.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
it
thought
was
it
good.
was really a satisfying episode.
Yeah. No, it was good to
Sorry,
see
Keith,
Doctor. I was going to say, I think we might have a slight time thing. Sorry, I keep treading on you. I don't mean to. Seeing Dr. Darcy Lewis appear as the astrophysics expert was very satisfying. Likewise, it was really good to see that, you know, FBI agent Jimmy Woo was able to perfect the business card trick that that he tried to get off Scott Lang in the Ant-Man film. So, you know, that was cool.
I love Randall Park. I think he's hilarious. He's always funny.
Yeah. And of course, we found out we did get some answers. Obviously, we've got loads more questions still, but we now know that it was his voice saying "Help me, Wanda" on the on the radio in that episode, and she, of course, edits out the bit where the glass gets broken. With Dottie, she edits it out of that bit, and I did like the line that Darcy says about. Are they doing sitcoms purely for my enjoyment?
Yeah, and I think it was also her hand making notes, wasn't it, at the end of episode 1? I want to say
that's right. Yes.
Right.
But and what I also loved is the fact that SWORD, as an agency, can source a really old world television really quite quickly. I was very impressed with that. Were they on eBay? Probably on eBay. I don't know. But they managed to get her that TV before she had her first coffee. I thought that was outrageous.
Yeah. No, there was no chivalry. Nobody got a coffee, did they?
Yeah, like, I haven't been able to get you a coffee, but here's an old TV from the 50s. It's like, what?
I'd have got her the TV and the coffee if I'd been there.
Oh, she could have anything she wants.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad that I like how they're using Dr. Lewis's character too, because I think she says at another point, like, oh, I was really rooting for that, or like, oh, it's twins, you know, because I'm definitely having that kind of an emotional reaction to the characters too. Like, I'm invested because they have such a tragic storyline, and it's kind of sad, but hopefully with Sword and Shield being involved, they'll be able to like help Wanda out, you know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And she even says she's invested as well, which, you know, just like us, again, the voice of the audience coming out through this, which is great.
And also nice to see that kind of that lightheartedness was true in the quote unquote real world as it was inside the sitcom, because, you know, there was those lovely little moments where I think Darcy was talking about Vision and Wanda having kids, and she says, do you want some to woo?
Yes.
And he says, oh yeah, I've always thought about it, and she's just giving him some potato chips, but which
the comic time in there was brilliant, wasn't it?
Right. So it was wonderful to have. But, you know, to be honest, that's what Kat Dennings and that character of Darcy bring to the MCU anyway. And it's interesting that that's by having Darcy in there, it's almost telling us that that's going to be the tone, because that was always the tone of Thor in a way, that it was going to be more comedic, even though it got far more comedic with the third film. But with her in there, you've kind of got this idea of how the show's going to shape up a bit.
Sure. Well, I mean, that is the really cool thing with the Marvel cinematic universe is the fact that they do quite a good balance between, you know, super dark stuff and, you know, comedic stuff. They've got that quite well. But in terms of the actual world building, and this is what I loved about the beginning of this, you know, with the people coming back from the blip and then, you know, seeing the Sword Agency and all of this, they've just done a really good job of making this a, you know, in inverted commas, believable world, you know, with all these different characters and timeline and crossover and all of that sort of stuff. I mean, you know, it's very well produced, but you know, Feige has, with the whole film series, done a really good job of sort of balancing that for the most part. I feel, I know there's been a few missteps here and there, but overall it's been quite consistent feeling.
And it was nice to see that kind of more harrowing side to the blip, you know, the situation that she found herself in before the blip and then coming back was so traumatic in itself. You know, she's there waiting for her mother, I think, to have surgery. And then she comes back and, you know, all of that stuff's going off. And it was interesting to see that more sort of kind of like dark side to that, because very real people, not superheroes, actually real people, and how they would have dealt with it. I thought that was really wonderfully done. So, yeah, that was, really a really beautiful moment, I thought.
Yeah. What about you, Pete? You're quite quiet there. You've usually got a lot of opinions about this stuff.
No, I think you guys are doing a great job talking it through, and I've said my bits here. You know, going back, I think episode 3 was long, and, you know, it was fine. It's just in terms of what we get from episode 4, it's way overshadowed. Episode 4 is, you know, like episodes 1, 2, and 3 are sort of oddball bits of the MCU, kind of like Thor, the first movie. And then episode 4 is like some of the best of the MCU that there is, you know? Yeah, that's how I feel.
I agree. Yeah.
I'm really glad they've sort of picked up with Wanda on the Pietro stuff, because obviously, you know, we had him in Ultron, which of course was a few movies back, the Age of Ultron. And I did always feel, you know, I was very happy with Avengers Endgame, as I say many times, apart from one or two minor nitpicks, like with everything. But, you know, obviously, of course, she references Vision because she lost him in the movie before and they were in a relationship. But I was sort of bothered that Pietro had never been sort of mentioned again since, as they were twins and that, you know, they grew up together and they were both experimented on by Hydra and they were both, you know, victims of you know, Stark technology, you know, in that when they were young. And I was kind of annoyed that it wasn't picked up on. Obviously, they had a lot to deal with in the movie, but the fact that they're sort of fleshing that out a little bit more in the show now just makes me happy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it seems like now a kind of a fair and fantastic payoff from the beginning and how we all felt there to where we are now. Those first couple of episodes, and I'm thinking, I can't get an Agent Carter season 3, but they give me this. And by episode 4, it's like, this is some of the best stuff I've seen on TV in years. So well, until of course I watched Raised by Wolves.
Right. Yes, indeed. You see, Daniel also put here, it's already better than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I only watched the first couple of seasons and kind of gave up on it. Obviously, that was a network television series, so the budget and whatever was a lot less. But here's a question, and you guys might be able to answer this. Maybe somebody out there can answer it. But is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. actually officially part of the MCU now, or not? Because I think there's some question around that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in the same category as like the Daredevil and
the Netflix shows. Yeah.
Right, because they were spun off prior to Disney. Although Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was ABC, wasn't it? Which is Disney.
Yes, it was. And it ran, I don't know, it ran for a number of seasons, didn't it? Was it 7 seasons or whatever? So they would probably got into quite a lot of character stuff. It's just, they've never really been mentioned in any of the sort of latter movies. And I just sort of wondered from a canon and continuity perspective, whether or not, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., as well as obviously Agent Carter, which of course fills in some of the backstory to S.H.I.E.L.D., but also, like you said, the Netflix shows, Daredevil, etc., Luke Cage and whatever. I mean, they weren't seen in Avengers Endgame, so are they officially part of it? Does anybody out there know? That's a question I have to the audience.
Did you say 7 episodes? Did you say 7 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I might be wrong with that. I don't know.
I'm pulling
it up.
Come on, Marvel.
Seasons.
Come on, Marvel. Agent Carter season 3, please. Come on. Let's not be silly.
Yeah.
Not be silly about this.
We all want more Haley Atwell. Yes.
Although you can't go back to Agent Carter now because of Endgame.
That's right, because of course she's settled down with Steve Rogers, right?
Yeah, we can see that, right? If you throw enough money at Chris Evans,
I don't
surely
know.
we could see that.
I don't know.
Yeah,
aren't we now dealing with alternate timelines and multiverses now? So,
put it this way: the Doctor Strange film, which is coming next year, is actually called The Multiverse of Madness. So, absolutely, like we said last week, I am sure that we are going to get into multiverse stuff for this next phase.
We're getting like 10 or 15 Spider-Men. Yeah, it's awesome.
Barbara,
I really hope they're not going to do, the multiverse of madness is because like Wanda's crazy and, I just think it's going to be too dark that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not into that ride.
Also, of course, like she's dealing with all this trauma, and if you had that kind of power that she's got, it's kind of what you might do.
It is interesting because I don't think Marvel, and we've talked about the way that they Marvel Studios and how they've managed all this, and I don't think it was actually the plan that WandaVision was going to be the series that kicked off the phase 4. I think it was, they were planning to have a few of the movies, which obviously got put back and postponed because of what's going on with cinemas because of COVID, etc. And I think even the Falcon and Winter Soldier was originally supposed to air before WandaVision, and it's just funny the way things have turned out, and they're making it work.
Yeah, it's kind of almost a right show at the right time, really.
Mm. Well, so anything else, guys, that you want to
part
add?
of why. Yeah,
Go on,
just
Barbara.
part of why I'm like sort of concerned about the multiverse theory is because in the comics, Wanda does go insane and causes a lot of like death and destruction, not only of mankind but also of like her fellow Avengers. So I just think it's gonna, it's like gonna get really dark if they follow that arc. So I'm hoping it's not gonna
And what?
be
Sorry,
the
what?
case.
What?
I like really dark.
Yeah, Barbara. I was going to say actually, Barbara, if I wanted to read that story, what comic do I need to look at?
So it was a run. The like sort of crux of this story is it's from 2005, and the series it's about 8 issues. It's called House of M,
Okay.
which might refer to mutants. It might refer to Magneto because, but like basically humans and mutants go to war, and Wanda going crazy and killing a bunch of the Avengers is the shot that starts it all. And
Okay.
there's a lot of spin-offs. It goes into different realities and other comics from there, but like the meat of it is in those 8 issues.
No, I mean, it sounds awesome as a comic, and I'll check that out. So thanks for that. But yeah, I can imagine that as a TV show, I think it could get a little bit silly.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the usual suspects, right? Like Wolverine is very sort of hard and does what needs to be done. So like he leads a faction who's like, let's just kill Wanda, and Professor X is trying to save her. Magneto is doing all his manipulations, and because there is that in the comic storyline of Wanda being Magneto's daughter. So it just, I feel like it gets really messy.
Yeah, that does sound messy, to be fair. But yeah, I'll check that out, I think.
The question is, I think, is this series, we got 9 episodes, but so we got another 5 to go, and are they going to tie all of this up in this one season, or will it lead into a season 2 or whatever? That's the question, isn't it?
I guess it depends on, doesn't it, whether I mean, it feels like this is probably becoming a little bit more of a success than perhaps they thought. So I guess that will probably dictate a lot of what happens next.
Sure.
I think it's going to be whether they can get Paul Bettany back.
Okay.
Well, he's having an absolute blast with this, though, isn't he? You can tell he's having an absolute blast, I think, with the comic stuff.
Pete, do you mean financially?
Yeah, I mean, and just like his schedule, I always thought like he's crazy high-powered, right? Like he's an A-list celebrity.
Yeah.
And so it's nuts to me that he's in this thing, but what do I know?
It is. I have to say, with him doing the...
Where would you...
Sorry, Barbara, go on.
Go ahead, Ryan.
No, all I was going to say is that on the media
question.
All I was going to say is that on the media rounds, he does seem very excited when he's talking about it. So, fingers crossed that they can get that over the line. But sorry, Barbara, you were saying?
Oh, no, I just had a question for you all and for the listeners, because people were saying that Catherine Hahn being on the show, that she was like a really high-powered celebrity too. But what do you think? Like, it sort of seems to me like Paul Bettany is definitely A-list, and Catherine Hahn might be A-list, but in like a different world, like a different type of acting.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, Catherine Hahn, I sort of see as being someone that I don't think feels out of place on this show. Not in the same way that, like you say, and not in the same way that Paul Bettany is. He seems more out of place than Catherine Hahn does. So it'd just be a case of, do we really think that they're going to get bigger names come into the show? And I guess that depends, I guess, on contracts.
I mean, for from an acting point of view, I mean, obviously, I'd love to be on something like this, but looking at it from an actor's perspective, is you know, this must be such fun for them to do because they're able to do such different things. You know, like every week is a different sitcom from a different era. So not only can you develop your character from a dramatic point of view, but it allows you to play with comedy and you know, different tones and all of that sort of thing. So you know, poor Bettany must be having an absolute bloody blast doing this, unless the makeup's annoying him. But other than that, you know, it must be such fun, I would think. But who knows? That's just me. So Daniel's put, I don't think cinemas can survive after this pandemic. It's unfortunate but inevitable a reality, sadly. Well, you know, I mean, that's definitely up for debate. But I mean, you know, they've been able to produce this show during the pandemic, and you know, thank God for streaming, because you know, we certainly can't go to the cinema at the moment. So you know, the fact that we get quality entertainment in our homes is a good thing, right?
I mean, I think it's going to completely depend on how quickly the under 50s are vaccinated, really, because until that happens, large gatherings are out. So if we're talking about another year from now until everyone's had their second vaccine, it depends whether the government, each government to do with each country or whatever, is going to have enough money to bail them out. And sadly, that's a really, really difficult question.
Well, anything. I hate to leave it on a sad note. I am conscious. I am conscious that we're approaching sort of the 90-minute mark here. Okay. So, any of you guys got any sort of final closing comments for tonight, for this episode before next week?
No. Well, I would say that Go on, Barbara.
Go ahead, Ryan. No, go ahead.
We're constantly talking over each other.
Yeah, I think we've got a slight UK to US delay, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's like
apologies. You don't mean to keep treading on you, but I think that's what's happening.
it's almost quite apt. It's like we're in like a 70s satellite feed.
There you go.
But I think. But what I would say is that I'm hoping that we get more Darcy, because I just think that she's awesome, and I want that kind of comedy element to continue. And I hate to say it, but I do want to see more links to the MCU. But that's probably more because I've always come at Marvel a bit more from the movie world rather than the comic world. So yeah, but final thoughts are it's getting stronger and it's getting better. So it's a really, really exciting time to be a Marvel fan, I think.
Pete?
Yeah, I think that this is one of the more compelling MCU stories we've had in a while. I think that being on streaming has given them a chance to really play around and do different things. You know, if this was a movie, there's no way they could have spent the first hour in sort of a weird alternate reality of fake TV shows, you know. But instead, because it's streaming, they're playing with that to the, you know, they're getting the most out of it. And now we've seen in episode 4 them really turn it up into classic Marvel movie, you know, and we're getting great superhero out of this. So I'm looking forward to see what happens next. You know, maybe I'll bring it back around to Star Trek like I always do, and say that I am worried that they will do what several seasons of modern Star Trek have done, which is set up a great streaming series in the first 4 episodes and then completely mess it up with the back half. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's hope, as they've got a sort of single director involved on this, that won't be the case. But I get your point, Barbara. And
wait. I have one last starting shot, which is that I think Darcy is the worst part of those Thor movies. And
Peter,
oh gosh,
why?
yeah, no.
Well,
I am ready for so much less of her, and it's the same thing as the FBI agent, whose name I forgot, from Ant-Man. He's the worst part of Ant-Man. It's
good Lord.
It's like
Wow.
It is the hackiest comedy, and so I would be much happier. Like, there's so many more funny things they can do, like that scene with the power going off, right? And Vision and Wanda's magic show. That's like the right level of comedy. This like sidekick crap comedy, I'm done with. But yeah, sorry. Parting shots.
Fair enough.
Sidekick crap.
Fair enough.
Can we trademark that, please? Can
Yeah.
Pete's comment there.
Barbara,
I
any
thought you were a
closing
big fan
thoughts
of
from you?
Agent Coulson, though.
I am a big fan of Agent Coulson, but I don't think his comedy is when it's done correctly, right?
But they shouldn't have brought him back.
No, they shouldn't have brought him back, right? I'm ignoring Agent Coulson in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because they really did an end run on that character. But like Agent Coulson in the Iron Man movies and the first couple of Captain America movies, like in the first Avengers movie, he is hilarious. But if you think about it, his hilarity is very understated. It's very true, and it's not somebody being like, "Look at me, I'm wacky," and that's what I'm. Yeah, and I feel like Darcy is like purposefully wacky.
Oh wow!
It's like
okay.
Oh,
fighting talk there, Ryan.
Kind of a.
It's like an arrow in my
No,
heart.
I think he's a refreshing character because you've got all these super powered beings running around like causing big messes and world threatening things, and then you've got the person who's like in her own little pond. She's a big brain, but she kind of still manages to have this levity about like, oh yeah, there's this like whole town that doesn't exist in the middle of nowhere. Like, cool, let's figure it out. I think it takes all types, so I'm enjoying the other characters.
Yeah, Pete.
Okay.
And
Okay, so we voted and I'm wrong. I get it.
I don't think so at all. What's interesting is that I do.
It's not right or wrong.
Yeah, no, not at all. Because I mean,
that's why we do this.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm a fan of Kat Dennings, anyway. But I'm very aware as someone who is on social media that she's maybe not liked that much by a lot of the fan base. But maybe that's wrong. Am I wrong there?
I don't know. I think that's a discussion for another time. But look, to end on a good note, Rebecca Gold there has put very entertaining live stream, guys. Thank you for that comment. That's really appreciated. And if you guys have got nothing else to add, I know this show's gone long today. So
hang on. I do see that we've had a message from Kat Dennings saying, "Whatever, Pete."
If only, right? But listen,
no, I don't have anything to add.
Yeah, that's cool. Barbara?
Parting shots. I would like to see our listeners do some chatter about which actors could play which potentially new characters. So, like, if they were going to do Mephisto, who would be a good actor for that? And if they do bring Magneto in, let's get Michael Fassbender on, because then I'm definitely watching everything from that point forward.
Fair enough. Well, listen, if anybody does want to get in touch, I mean, thank you for those of you that have been on the stream tonight. I know we've had a few people watching, and thank you for those who have given the comments as well. But if you do want to get in touch with us offline, we do have an email address, which is lswotcast@gmail.com. That's lswotcast@gmail.com. Please, by all means, email us there, and we will include your emails in a section in the next episode. Or indeed, tune in at the same time, 7:30 UK time next week, where we'll be covering episode 5 with the same sort of format. Also, this does go out as a podcast as well on all good podcasting apps, and we are on social media at LSWOT Cast. So please check that out, share, subscribe, like, all of that sort of stuff. And I will be, in future episodes, will be running a competition for Marvel related giveaways. So again,
Ooh,
please
fun.
subscribe and come back for future episodes to check that out. But in the meantime, guys, if anybody wants to find more of your work, where can they do so?
Well, for me, you can check out my art and some of my paintings on ryanholloway.net, and you can contact me through there as well.
I'm on Twitter at Too Many E's, and I'm also apparently banned from being anywhere near Kat Dennings. Oh, that's a rough one.
That would be my hell.
Barbara?
I'm on Twitter at bmcmealy, MCMELE, or if anybody's interested in the vanilla side of my life, I am a florist on Instagram at Gatherings Floral Design NY.
Oh, check that out. Absolutely. And you can find more of my work. Obviously, this stream is Home Media Minefield. So other videos on here include physical media, unboxings and reviews, Blu-rays, 4Ks, that sort of thing, with additional content. And if you want to check out any of my short films that I've made, that's on another YouTube channel called British Isles, which is EYLES, as in my last name. So please check that out also. But that just leaves me to thank the panel and you guys for tuning in and listening to us. Really appreciate it. And we will see you next time on Let's see
what's
out
out
there. Yay.
Guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.